Hey everyone, I'm Al the Geek, and as some of you probably know, and for those that don't, my whole foray into what Al the Geek is about started with things like this. Taking different foam flinging blasters and doing some crazy things to them. Now, it's not the only thing I make. We're going to talk about some of the other things that I like to make.
Welcome to the Forge. I'm Al the Geek. I love making big crazy blasters. Here on the Forge, we're going to show you some tips, some tricks, and how to mod and paint your blasters. From anything from making giant master keys to making that big, long, cool sniper that you're always looking for. Whether it be cosplay or whether it be foam flinging, here at the Forge, we're going to show you how to do that.
Like I was saying, today we're going to talk about some of the other things I make. Not just Nerf guns, not just big cosplay props, but some of the armor. So you can see, I am wearing a set of shoulder pads and masks. No, yeah. That ain't me. I wish I looked like that. So, let me introduce you. This is my mannequin Winthrop. My wife got me a mannequin because I realized that trying to make these on the back of a chair or trying to hold them on a workbench is really difficult and impossible. So, I got a mannequin. And of course, the mannequin has to have a name, so this is Winthrop. And if you have a mannequin in your workshop or in your basement, and you have people come over and have no idea you have a mannequin, let me tell you, it freaks out most people. But besides that, I like to make shoulder pads. And this actually was a result of me doing conventions. And I remember my first con, it was actually Awesome Con. And knowing that people dress up for it in cosplay, I thought, you know what, this is a perfect excuse to actually try something different. At that point, I had not tried costuming or trying to make anything or even dressed up. So I thought, here is an opportunity. So because I grew up in the 80s and 90s and I did watch wrestling, I was a wrestling fan. And if you are also a wrestling fan or still are a wrestling fan, when I say the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, or Animal and Hawk, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's okay. They are probably one of the best tag teams that ever was. And their whole shtick and gimmick were they were brawlers. But the way they came in, they had football pads that were painted red or black and had spikes on them. And I thought I could make that, and that's what I want to do. So my first convention, I had shoulder pads and I got spikes. But then on top of that, I didn't want to do the whole exactly like what they did. I wanted to do my own take on it. So again, you throw in a little bit of Mad Max in there, and suddenly you have this. So this isn't a direct recreation of either of those. It's kind of every time I do shoulder pads, it's drawing inspiration from those two things to come up with something like this. So this, as you can see, we got skulls, chains, and the spikes are all 3D printed. Now most of this, it's all plastic. There's no metal. The only metal that's actually in this are these little spikes here that you see with the strap and the screws that holds everything together. If you ever want to make shoulder pads, let me tell you something. Football pads are a great way to start. You don't have to worry about patterning or anything else like that. Plus, sizing. I mean, you just order the correct size shoulder pads and you don't have to worry about making sure it fits. Plus, it's comfortable fit and you already got the straps built in. But even more so is because you have all this hard plastic surface, this now gives you something that you can actually attach your stuff to. So, again, my background is construction. I have drills, screws, saws, you name it. So, of course, for me, how do you attach this? Glue is great, but glue, you can knock it off. However, you glue it and screw it, odds are it's not going to fall off. So, I make shoulder pads. After that first con, I had so many people ask questions, I realized I should make these. I should sell these. If I sell these, I can make more of these. And you know what? It's a lot of fun. So I do make a lot of shoulder pads. Now, because you have shoulder pads, people want other things. They'll say, hey, can you make anything else? So the next thing I went to are masks. And I think because all my stuff has intentionally, maybe unintentionally, post-apocalyptic feel, it is amazing how many of my masks and pieces all go together, even though when I first designed them, they never were supposed to go together. They weren't supposed to clash either. But because I got a whole post-apocalyptic vibe that happens with it, it all works. So usually what happens, again, I don't mold them from nothing. I usually take existing airsoft masks or other general masks that I find that I thought this is a cool thing. I think it'd be better if I did this to it. So again, for some reason I have this obsession with spikes. Go figure. But I do masks like this. So this one, again, painted it, added spikes, distressed it. It looks awesome. But does that mean that's the only one I do? No. Let's see if I got any more. So I also have this option. This one also comes, again, it's an existing airsoft mask. You can pick it up. Yes, if I had to, I could probably paint it with the American stripes and stars on it, but I actually got this one like that. So for me, I added streaks on the side, numbered, spikes, distressed it, and again, unintentionally, well, looks like it goes with it. There are various versions that I sell like this, and it's kind of anytime I find something new and I can make it, I make it. And it's not because, oh no, I don't want to make custom blasters anymore. No, this is part of the whole fun process of being able to create. When you got a crazy idea in your head and you want to make it happen. So what do? I experiment and I make it happen. And trust me, it's not like my first mask was great. My first shoulder pads weren't great, just like my first blaster wasn't great. What does it involve? Experimentation, trial and error. Try it out. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to fail. It's how you learn. It's how you make cool things. Like this set of shoulder pads was one of my first iterations. Well, not first successful iterations. Since then, I do spikes differently. I do 3D printed skulls more so than these plastic ones. And I probably changed this thing up 3 or 4 times. But I still like it. However, now to recreate it, I do so many different things. It's just a process, but it's also a fun process. So, do I have any other masks? Yeah, let me show you this one. This one you've probably seen some iteration of. It's also a very common one. Again, it comes pre-painted with the white as well. But for some reason, I felt like I needed horns and a spiked mohawk. This spiked mohawk. Think it might be because right? Maybe? Whatever. Yeah, I guess it looks a little demonic, but that's not the intention. It's just like, let's stick something on it and see if it works. And it works, so that's why I do it. Again, 3D printed spikes, screwed and glued, and then putty to attach it as well. But unintentionally so, it all goes together. But you're probably wondering, is that the only thing you can do, Al? Are like the Raiders shoulder pads? I can do other stuff. Let's see. This next one should be recognizable. If not, I put a prop blaster beside it just to tip you off in case you're having a hard time. This one actually was great. This was actually a guy a couple years ago that messaged me to want a set of custom shoulder pads, and what he wanted was he had this cool Mandalorian helmet. By the way, in case you figured it out, my take on a whole like savage, post-apocalyptic, possibly Mando. Where again, with the shoulder pads, some spikes, obviously mythosaur skulls, chest piece is clearly what it's supposed to be, and then some chains because why not? So the way this came about, I had a guy who had this wicked Mando helmet that was kind of savage with like built-in teeth into the bottom part of that mask. So he wanted me to emulate that. And it actually inspired me to make a version of this, which apparently was always swimming in my head where I wanted to do some kind of post-apocalyptic crossover Mando thing. And it was the perfect excuse. And boom, we have it. Why'd I make it? Because it's fun and because I could and it's cool. Anytime you want to make something, just make it, try it. And even if it looks horrible, who cares? Try, make it, do it. Now this is great. This, yeah, I bought one. Regret to buy anything, don't buy this. These things are, If you like it, great. I did not. Disappointing. But anyways, that's not what we're talking about today. Shoulder pads. And again, football pads. 3D printed chest plate attached to it, plastic chains, mythosaur skulls, 3D printed. These, if you recognize them, they're the horns from the previous mask. Coming out of the shoulder pads, and boom. Just like that. So we got one more set that I have. This one's again a little different, but why not? Want to see it? Let's see it. All right, last set. This one came out unintentionally and really was just experimentation. First thing was with the spikes, and I had different shoulder pads. These ones had broad shoulders. These ones I don't get that much anymore, but still, it's a great platform to attach stuff to. So what I do was just this whole arrangement of spikes here and here. And I painted it white. I know I do red ones like the LOD ones. I thought, well, what if I do that where it's just spikes in different colors? So that's how this one started out as. And I did it and realized this is an option, so I offered it. But then I thought, let me try more things. So again, added the chain, and this is the first time that I used this skull and crossbones right here in these pieces on the shoulders. I thought they looked cool, but then realized, all right, I could do my usual skull in the middle. But someone at one point had asked me to make like a wolf set where I had wolf armor. So I used this kind of as my test piece. Wolf head right in the middle, put it in. Is it emulating something specifically? No. Is it the White Wolf, Game of Thrones? Sure, why not? Again, it's just these are ideas in my head. I made it happen. Why? Because it's fun to create and make stuff. And boom, shoulder pads. It is fun to make shoulder pads. If you ever want to try to make shoulder pads, it's kind of easier to do than you think. My suggestion, don't buy brand new pads. Brand new pads run from $120 way up to $500 for some of those Wicked Riddell ones. Your first time doing pads, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to drop that much money. However, play it against sports shops, secondhand stores, schools, sports programs, football teams. Find out what they do with their old pads. Sometimes you can find an old set of shoulder pads for like $20, $40. That's a great platform to experiment on. Why? Because if it comes out great, sweet, it didn't cost you too much. If you epically fail, it's only $20. As opposed to, $185 just for this set. That's just the shoulder pads that I'm buying it from, not the finished thing. But again, back to these are some of the things I like to make. Shoulder pads, definitely. One more thing we're going to talk about today, I'm going to show you these as well, and it's shin guards. Someone asked me for them, I made them, and now I sell a lot of those. Let's go check out my shin guards. So here, we have some of the shin guards I make. These ones are actually existing. I do believe they're like motocross ones that I got. And then, of course, figured they needed spikes on them. And, if you're doing spikes, why not skull and crossbones? But then felt like I needed something. Oh, look, I have spikes. So I made those as well. I sell a lot of these too. Why? Because people ask me for them. They're fun. Oh, look, we've seen that guy before. And they actually all go well together as well. Also, currently on my bench, I have one of these. These are great. I do them in multiple different colors. This one I've taped up, painted already. Leave the eyes still covered because it's still got to do a clear coat. And yeah, don't clear coat the lens. That's a good idea. So this one, I still got to touch up the black. I will be distressing it. And then here in the middle, I have an Al the Geek pin, which I'm going to be setting right in the middle of it. Maybe I'll show you that one when it's done. But yeah, these are some of the things that I like to make. So of course, you know me for blasters. Blasters are fun to make. And if that's what you want to make, you can make them. But if there's other things you want to make, don't be afraid to try. It is so much fun. As you can tell, I have blasters. I have a 3D printer. But I also have an imagination. I find it fun to create things. Don't just limit yourself. If you want to make other stuff, make other stuff. But if all you want to do is make large, ridiculous, foam-flinging, fantastic toys, then you can. Why? Well, they are fun. They are really fun. And again, don't think you have to mimic anyone. Don't think you got to make it a certain style or whatever. Find your own voice. Find your own style. Make the stuff you want to make. That's what I did. And people seem to enjoy it. Which brings me even more joy because I'm making stuff I like to make and other people like it as well. So again, thank you all for tuning in and watching this episode of The Forge. Tune in again in about 2 weeks. We'll have another episode of The Forge. And maybe I'll show you how to make something. Also, don't be afraid to make stuff. And yeah, we're close enough. Happy holidays.